Hey everybody, I'm Jordan with Warpfire Minis, and for today's challenge game, we're going into King Brodd Stomp. Going into Gargants with the rats, it's always a tough one on objectives. So they count as 20 each on the objective. I've got those clan rats that are 20-man squads, so we want to try and use those to take objectives away here and there where we can. And then Skabbik's Prayer to befoul an objective where they can't even control it. That's going to be a really useful tool to use in this matchup. And then another big factor is, for the challenge games, when you come in, we roll a dice to determine the mission. And so when you're playing Gargants on a mission like Towers, where there's only 2 objectives, things are pretty tough. But this one, we rolled it off. We got ice fields, so there's 6 objectives. Let's just jump into it. So first up, I'll run you through his list. We've got 2 Gatebreakers, 1 and 2. Notably, this Gatebreaker has his Nullstone enhancement, which lets him do an unbind, and if he successfully unbinds, he can keep trying to unbind spells. Then we've got King Brodd and a Warstomper. And then this Gatebreaker back here is his general. He's got the Lucky Hat, which gives him a 5-up ward against mortal wounds, and he has high expectations for his command trait, which gives his Gargants an extra death grip attack if they're within 3 inches of him. For Gargants, all of them are about the same. Like, the Gatebreakers do a little bit more damage. They've got the 4-up pulverizing strike where they can do a bunch of mortal wounds. King Brodd, he's got his prayer. But all of them, like, they're all good for about 15 damage, give or take. So all of them are kind of equally a threat. The big thing they have is Terror, where if they charge in and they kill some units, you can't use a command point to do Inspiring Presence. And so that's where the Plague Furnace is going to try and come in big. Just auto-passing that Battle Shock, not even having to roll. Hopefully that can help save some clan rats in this game. But in this situation, he outdropped me and decided to give me the first turn, though he could try to double me and win. So we'll jump into top of 1 Skaven. I've got things set up already to where, like, this is where I moved all of my guys for the end of my turn 1. My battle tactic was just magical dominance. We had all of our wizards back here, clearly out of range, so we cast a spell, we scored our battle tactic. Notably, we got the Befoul Prayer off onto this objective, so he won't be able to even contest that objective as long as this Plague Pack is on it. We also got Death Frenzy off on the Hell Pit, and a Mystic Shield onto the Plague Furnace. But that's pretty much it for my turn. I just pushed up on these objectives. I measured things out. I stayed roughly about 20 inches away from these Gargants. They move 10. If they get the Broad Prayer off, they can move 12. So it's going to leave him where he's got to make 8 or 9 inch charges to get into me. And I could have tried to stay a little bit farther back, but I do need to start pushing up. Like, with the Gargants, it's a lot easier for him to control more objectives than me. Like, he'll be able to just walk on and start taking objectives. So I can't afford to stay all the way back all game and not score more. So we got to push up a little bit to where later on in the game, hopefully we can start scoring more objectives than him. But for the turn, I'm just going to hold 1, 2 in my battle tactic. I'm going to score 4 points. Like, there's a world where I could have deep struck in the PCBs and the gutter runners and tried to make a play onto 1 Gargant, but it would just put me into a terrible position. If I luck out and kill 1, like, still everything else I have is about to get crushed, so it's just not the play turn 1. So we call it a day. We take our 4 points, go into Gargants, bottom of 1. So with Gargants, he's got to choose his battle tactic, and I put Skabbik on this side and befouled this objective because this Gargant is the one with the Nullstone enhancement. And with the new battle tactic that they just came out with in the battle scroll, if that Gargant moves up and contests an objective that I was controlling, it would be a free, easy battle tactic for him. So he would have been able to just auto-run that Gargant, touch that objective, battle tactic scored. So with the befoul, it makes it to where he can't even contest it. So he's not going to be able to score that battle tactic this turn. He's not going to be able to score invaders because they all have to be out of his zone, and this one goes all the way up to the half. So he's looking through the list trying to find something, and the only battle tactic that he's going to be able to score is one where a Gargant has to charge and take an objective. So he's going to try and send this guy down here, charge into these clan rats, kill a bunch of them, and take this objective from me. In the hero phase, he goes for his prayers. He does end up getting the plus 2 inches to his move characteristic prayer off. I was hoping that one failed, but here we go. We're just jumping into movement. This Gargant just moves his full 12 up here. And when he does, he gets within 8 inches. He's exactly 8 inches away from me. And I can't redeploy very far, But I do go ahead and redeploy, like, even if I can get an extra inch added to that charge roll. This is his tactic. That would be a big swing my way, so we're going to take the gamble and do it. So I end up rolling the redeploy. I get a 5-inch redeploy, but I can really only move about an inch further back. And so now that's going to be a 9-inch charge for him. This Gatebreaker just moves up his full movement up to here. King Brodd moseys up behind. And then this Gatebreaker back here, he moves him up to position him. He knows that I still have my Gutter Runners and PCBs and Deep Strike, so he's putting this Gargant on here to still contest both of these objectives. Brodd's staying here to contest that one. He doesn't want me to control more later, so he's just making sure he has a Gargant on each objective. We go into the shooting phase, and the Gatebreaker, he ends up rolling to break this terrain piece, and he does. Boom, it's off the board. And he throws it at Screech and does 3 damage to Screech. And then his regular shooting attack, he shot into Screech as well and just missed. So then into the charge phase, we start down here. This is his battle tactic. He rolls a charge roll and gets an 8. So the redeploy really saved my butt over here so far. He spends a CP to reroll it and rolls another 8. So just goes to show with the command point, like even adding an inch to somebody's charge roll, just a really big deal. Boom, now his tactic is likely failed. But he goes for the charge roll on this Gatebreaker over here. He also needs a 9, ends up getting it on this side. And so now, last-ditch effort for a Monstrous Rampage, they can do the one where they get to move 3d6 inches, but they have to end within 3 inches of an enemy unit to do it. So he rolls the 3d6, and he only gets like an 8. So it's not quite enough for this Gargant to jump all the way onto this objective to score his battle tactic. So boom, now we do know that's a battle tactic failed. Really big deal. Into combat phase, he attacks into the Clan Rats, all-out attacks. I all-out defense. And he ends up killing all but one single Clan Rat. And so we pulled all the Clan Rats left. We left this little guy. And conveniently, he's wholly within 13 inches of the furnace. So I don't even have to roll Battle Shock. And at the end of Battle Shock, we end up getting 1 Clan Rat back. So for his turn, he's just going to hold 1 and 2. Doesn't control more because of the Skabbiks. He doesn't even control this objective. And he doesn't score his battle tactics, so just 2 points. We go in for a priority roll into turn 2. And Skaven, we win the priority. So Skaven top at 2, here we go. For my battle tactic, I'm looking at it, and the Gargants, they're going to creep in this next turn for sure. And so I'm going to go and do my prayer tactic where I have to chant 3 prayers. Turn 1, we had procced the Great Plague to reroll all of our prayers. So while I still have 3 priests alive, let's get it out of the way. And if we can proc a bubonic plague or something on this guy, you really want to try and kill 1 Gargant a turn, so that big mortal wound spike would really help us here. So we chant our prayers, we get a bless off on these Clan Rats over here. We befoul the objective again. We do a couple mortal wounds to the Gargant. I was really hoping I didn't kill my own Clan Rats here with this prayer, and we didn't. We didn't roll the 4. And then Skabbik, we do kill one of Skabbik's guys. And then the other priest, he goes for a heal, and heals 2 for Screech. Unfortunately, we did not proc a Great Plague this time. We were hoping for that bubonic, but we didn't get it. But we did get all 3 prayers off, so boom, battle tactic done. That's great news. Next up, we go for the dreaded 13th. I always love getting this one off. Get some mortal wounds in there and getting extra free Clan Rats. Always super useful, but we don't get it off. We get a Mystic Shield onto Screech himself. Then we go for the Blizzard on the Grey Seer here. And we roll the damage and we do 13 mortal wounds, which is great. But we rolled a couple 1s. And so I have to take D3 mortal wounds back to myself. Roll those, and boom, we kill our own Grey Seer. It's great to get the mortal wounds into the Gatebreaker, but my grand strategy being to keep those heroes alive. Really didn't want that to happen. But that's just how it is sometimes. So, Grey Seer over here. We get a Death Frenzy off on the Hell Pit, and then we're just going to jump into moving. So first up, we move Screech over here, just getting outside of 3. We retreat these Clan Rats out over this way, just outside of 3 again. And we put Skabbik's boys over here. Just again, this objective is befouled again, so we really want to hold it. We're going to tuck those guys in tight. Then we scoot Skabbik over here, just get within 3 inches of his guys, while also staying on this terrain feature for the +1 to save. And the Plague Furnace, it moves over this way. The Clan Rats over here this turn, I end up backing them up. If I keep them all on the objective, just these 2 Gargants are likely coming in this turn, and they're all going to die. So we shift them out this way. Just get them out of the way of the Hell Pit. Move the Grey Seer over here. And then the Hell Pit moves up. For the Hell Pit, we end up rolling a 7-inch move. Then we go to the end of the movement phase, and I'm going to go and send in the Gutter Runners. This Gatebreaker here, I knew he was the Nullstone guy. That's a battle tactic, so I chose him as their chosen target, hoping that we could kill him early before they score it. And so now's the time we're going to shoot them in, try and take this guy out. Then also in the movement phase, we go and we hop the drill into the gnaw-hole over here and send him over this way. And we're just scooting him over to that side, getting him within 12. We can use him to try and fish for that cool charge roll. So we go to shooting. Screech does his tail attacks into the Gatebreaker, does like a damage. And then the Gutter Runners, they shoot in and they do 12. Which that's a pretty solid amount of damage there into the Gatebreaker. For Screech, we put him into his Rend 3 damage 3 stance this turn. Turn 1, I had put him into -1 to hit stance, just in case he'd got the double. I didn't want Screech to die. But now I knew I needed to kill this Gatebreaker, so we put him in the big damage stance. It's time to go to the charge phase to send him in. We start out with the drill, who's 12 inches away, roll the charge, and we get the 9, so everybody's making it in. So first up, we send in Screech. Then we send in the Plague Furnace and the Hell Pit. And the Hell Pit here, this is one where it's a little bit of a risky play. I know I've got Death Frenzy. I'll be able to hit into this Gargant, do a good chunk of damage, and I really just want to stay alive. If I can stay alive right there, it'll keep him off of this objective, which would be great. And it's just going to keep him away from getting into these clan rats. This Gargant is so far away, it's going to have a hard time getting here. So, in an ideal world, Help It takes a big chunk, stays alive. That's the hope there. And then with the Gutter Runners, we end up sending them in as well. Monstrous Rampages with Screech, we go for the Roar, and we fail it, which is a bummer. He goes to roar me back and also fails, so at least we got that. On this side, I go for a Titanic Duel, and then he does the same. Start a combat phase, my Artifact lets me try to do Mortal Wounds, but I roll a 2, so the Artifact doesn't do anything. And we go to where am I going to start? Screech is my biggest damage. The Gatebreaker is the target I need to take down. So we start combat there. We go ahead and we pop Screech's +1 to hit, +1 to wound ability on himself, and he swings in. We need to do 9 damage, and we do 8. We leave the Gargant on 1 wound. He was able to all-out defense, and that's what kept him alive. Then he goes to his combat. He could either now fight with this Gargant into the Hell Pit and try to kill him before he takes any damage, or he could try and fight with the Gatebreaker who's on death's door, try and get some sort of value out of him. And that's what he ends up going for. He does the Gatebreaker. The Gatebreaker's on his absolute bottom bracket with 1 wound left. And so he takes the gamble and goes for the Pulverizing Strike on a 4-up into Screech. And this is just if he rolls that 4, boom, it's 46 mortal wounds. Screech will likely die. But he misses, doesn't roll the 4-up. That's his whole activation. Goes over to me, I fight with the Hell Pit. We do 10 damage into the Gargant. The Gargant fights me back and does 17 damage, which does kill the Hell Pit. And that's, the Gargants, they're normally good for 15 into a 4-up. So like, I was just playing the math. He did a little bit above average, and that happens. I roll my dice to stay alive, and I don't stay alive, I die. So the Hell Pit, he does have Death Frenzy, he fights again on death. Does another 10 wounds to the Gargant. So Help is dead. At least we got 20 damage into it. He's over halfway dead. We'll take what we can get. And then the Gutter Runners attack. Boom. Kill the Gatebreaker. I end up winning the Timber Roll. We just send him back this way. So Gatebreaker down. So that ends up being the turn. I score 1, 2, and my battle tactic. There still wasn't a world where I could get out here to score more. So we're just getting 4 points. And then over here with the Clan Rats, we get a couple more back at the end of Battle Shock. So going into Gargants, bottom of 2. His battle tactic is Intimidate the Invaders. He's just going to move his guys across the line. That's a good one, going to be guaranteed. Hero phase, he goes to do his prayer with Brodd, fails it, rolls a 2, doesn't hurt himself. So boom, we can just jump straight into movement. This Gargant, the Warstomper here, just moves down outside of 3 of these Clan Rats. Brodd moves down just outside of 3 of Screech. Then this Gatebreaker moves over here. He ends up getting within 9 inches of Screech, so I go ahead and I redeploy Screech, and we get a 3-inch redeploy. We go to the shooting phase, and Brodd, he rolls a dice to kill that terrain piece right next to him. Gets it, and then he chucks it over at Screech. And these ones, they're just a bummer. It's D3 plus 3 damage. It's Rend 3. So, like, even with the all-out defense, like, I'm saving on a 6. So I don't all-out defense. He gets a couple of them through and does 7 damage to Screech. Then the Gatebreaker throws his rock at Screech and misses. And we go to the charge phase. Warstomper charges in. Then King Brodd charges in over here to Screech. Doesn't get quite enough to get into those clan rats, but he does a few mortal wounds to the gutter runners, then fails to do mortal wounds to Screech. This Gargant back here tries to charge into the furnace, fails the charge, rerolls it, fails the charge again. So we go to Monstrous Rampages. He's looking at Screech, and Screech, he's Finest Soured this turn. He's Mystic Shielded. I'm going to all-out defense. And so even though he's hurt, he's looking at it, well, maybe I'm not going to be able to kill Screech. So he does the 3d6 Monstrous Rampage, thinking he's just going to do a bunch of mortal wounds to everything around. Rolls pretty high, and then shoots King Brodd all the way back here. And he did this so he could take away this objective from me. He's already got 1-2 more. He's just trying to make it more difficult for me in the later turns. Since this objective is still befouled, if Brodd stays there, he can't take it. But he ends up doing mortal wounds to all the things around, so the Plague Furnace takes 3 mortal wounds. The Gutter Runners take a couple more mortal wounds. And these Clan Rats take 3 mortal wounds as well. We go into the combat phase. Start of combat, my artifact triggers this time. We do 5 mortal wounds to Brodd. And in the combat phase, he starts with Brodd. The Clan Rats down here, they're not going to do anything to the Gargant. So he swings in with Brodd. But the Furnace, it's -1 to wound. It's -1 to hit. He all-out attacks to negate that part of it. But Brodd swings in. Between my ward and everything else, he ends up doing 4 damage to the Furnace. I go in with the Clan Rats. We pile in. And we're just trying to make sure he can't touch this objective. Not that it matters very much. But we're also scooting all our guys over this way to get closer to that Furnace to make sure we're in Furnace range. We fight. We do 1 damage to the Gargant. And then the Gargant swings in, and he kills all but 2 of the Clan Rats. So we pulled our Clan Rats, and I pulled them to be outside of 3. I'm already within range of the Furnace, so it's not going to matter for Battle Shock. But that's one thing just to keep in mind that you can do with Gargants. When they do kill you, you can pull your models to be outside of 3, so that you can still Inspiring Presence later. In this case, I just want to have them close to the Grey Seer. I'll get one back at the end of Battle Shock, and then he'll, boom, get his Lookout Sir benefit. Furnace fights into Brodd. We end up doing another 7 damage. Then between the Gutter Runners here piling in, the Clan Rat piling in, and the Plague Priest piling in, we end up doing another 4 damage. That's all the combat, so we go to Battle Shock. I automatically pass because of the Furnace. We get a couple back here. And a couple Clan Rats back on by Brodd. Scoring-wise, it's a good turn for the Gargants. He does get his tactic for Invaders, being past the line. And then he does hold 1-2 more this turn. So he's going to score 5 points and max out. We go for a priority roll into turn 3. And Rats, we get the prio. So we're looking at a wounded King Brodd here. We're going to take the turn, try and take him down. So Skaven, top of 3. So Skaven, for my battle tactic this turn, I'm going to go for Flee. We've got all these guys in combat right here. Easy just to pull a couple of them out. Score an easy battle tactic. We'll take it. For Screech, we go into his healing stance, which lets him heal D3. And he heals 2. And then for prayers, we go for a heal from the Green Plague Priest there. He heals Screech for another 3. Then Skabbik, I decide not to befoul the objective. I've got so many people on. I don't want to hurt Screech or the Furnace more. And he's already got 1-2 more. I'm going to try and spread out this turn and get a bunch of guys on. So we just go for a Bless. We get it onto his little Plague Pack guys. And then the Plague Furnace, it goes for its War Scroll 1 to do D3 mortal wounds. And then for the Plague Furnace, he goes for a Curse and gets it off onto Brodd. And when he does, he triggers a Great Plague. We choose the Bubonic Plague, which is 2d6 mortal wounds. We roll it, and we do 12 mortal wounds, the absolute max. What a dream. Then for spells, we go for the Blizzard down here on this guy, and we don't get it off. Screech casts a Mystic Shield on himself, and then he goes for the Dreaded 13th. We shoot it into Brodd, and we do 8 mortal wounds, which also summons in 8 Clan Rats over there, which is going to let us, boom, take that objective in the hero phase, which absolutely rules. And then down here with this Grey Seer, we go with an Arcane Bolt. And we just hold on to it. We're going to see how things shake out, what we need to do. So we go into the movement phase. I retreat out this Plague Priest here, just staying on this objective. We're just trying to get as far away from those Gargants as possible. We retreat out these Clan Rats here. Then we go and we retreat the Plague Furnace out this way. Just build a little screen for Screech, maybe try and keep him a little bit safer going into the next turns. The Gutter Runners I leave in because I don't want Brodd to redeploy, and they can still shoot them while they're there. So Screech just moves over here outside of 3. With this Grey Seer and the Clan Rats down here, I didn't move them. I just didn't want this Gargant to redeploy and touch this objective. So we're just going to stay put. End of movement phase. We teleport the drill, boom, over to this knothole. And this is going to make it where if his Gargant leaves this objective, I'm going to take it from him. It's also going to help us set up a Surround and Destroy for later turns. And then his grand strategy was Overshadow. So he has to kill all of my battle line. So this is turn 3. I got to bring in these PCBs. And so what we do, we drop the drill back here and the PCBs all the way back here on this objective, which is letting me take all 3 of these objectives this turn, which is awesome. It's also putting him in a situation where I'm going to kill Brodd this turn. He's going to have 1 Gargant down here doing stuff. And then if he wants to kill these guys ever, he's going to have to turn this Gatebreaker around and move backwards, just taking him out of the game for the rest of the game. So putting them back there, that's where we're going with. I think that's going to be a good strategy moving forward. So now we go to the shooting phase. The Gutter Runners and Screech shoot into Brodd, and we leave him on 1 wound left. Just missed doing it. So we go to the charge phase. Screech charges in, and then in combat we kill Brodd, win the Timber Roll, send it over here. Brodd is dead. And then that ends up being the turn for me. I hold 1-2 more this turn. We retreated our 2 units out, so we got our Flee, so 5 points. And also at the end of Battle Shock, we get a couple Clan Rats back into each squad. So going into Gargants, bottom of 3. For his tactic this turn, he chooses Lead into the Maelstrom. He's going to try and hit some charges with the Gargants, and somebody's got to end in combat. Brodd's gone, so no more prayers, so we're just boom, jumping into movement. This Gatebreaker does indeed turn around. He's going to go chase down these PCBs. And then the Warstomper, he just stays put. We go into shooting phase. He picks up the piece of terrain and crushes it. Throws it at these Clan Rats here and kills them. So we go to the charge phase. This Gargant charges in over here and does 4 mortal wounds to my Greyseer on impact. And then over here, this Gatebreaker charges in, does 2 mortal wounds, and kills a PCB. Launches Rampage. He goes for a Stomp and misses. And then over here, he does the 3d6 charge thing. He's going to try and fly over the Greyseer, kill it, and get into something else. And so he rolls kind of low on the 3d6, flies over the Greyseer and these Gutter Runners and lands there. He does do enough mortal wounds to kill the Greyseer and kills 2 Gutter Runners. We go to the combat phase. Gatebreaker fights into the PCBs, and with them being -1 to wound, this just makes them a lot tankier than people give them credit for. So he swings in and he kills 3 of the Plague Sensor Bearers. I pile in and fight with the Gutter Runners and do a couple damage. And then he fights with the Warstomper there and kills the Gutter Runners. Then for me, these 6 PCBs, they pile in and fight. And they do 8 damage to the Gatebreaker. Then over here, his battle tactic, he had to stay in combat. And so when he saw this one go so poorly, he just fought over here and cleared the Gutter Runners out. He could have piled in to make sure he got his tactic, but he knew he was going to score it on this side. And so he's setting up here, hoping he gets a double turn and then can charge in, proc some mortal wounds into something else. For me, I've got to roll a bravery check. Over here, I lose all but 2 of the Plague Sensor Bearers. So he does score his tactic. He's going to control 1 objective, 2 objectives, plus tactic for 4 points. We roll off for priority into turn 4, and Skaven, I win the priority roll again, and we'll jump into Skaven top of 4. Battle tactic-wise, I'm just going to go for Surround and Destroy. I'll be able to have the drill. These PCBs can just retreat back, and then those Clan Rats we summoned in, that'll be an easy battle tactic. And we'll jump into the hero phase. Heroic action, we heal a couple wounds here on the Plague Furnace. We go for some prayers. We don't proc any mortal wounds. We don't proc any Great Plagues. So then Screech goes for the Dreaded 13th. We get it off this turn. We do 7 mortal wounds to the Gargant. Get a Mystic Shield off on Screech, and we'll jump into move. We're going to get our tactic first, so we retreat out here. Get wholly within 6 of the edge. This drill, I end up moving over here to get outside of 3. This drill goes for the run, and then runs up this way onto this objective. Staying wholly within 6. These Clan Rats over here move to be wholly within 6 of that edge, so that's our tactic scored. So then with the rest of these guys over here, I don't move. And I've got short charges right now, and if I move, I could potentially proc a big redeploy where I'll have to make an 8 or 9 inch charge. So right now with where we're at, Screech and the Plague Furnace, they'll be able to charge into this Warstomper. We've got to do 5 more damage to him. We've got that. So then we go into movement. I not hold those Clan Rats just to get more bodies on this objective. And then we go to shooting. We shoot, we do 1 damage to the Gargant, and then we charge it. We roll the charge with the Clan Rats first. We get it, and so everybody's in. Plague Furnace charges in there, and then Screech comes down too. So Monstrous Rampages, we go for the Roar, and we fail. He goes to Roar me back, and also fails. So we go to start of combat, my artifact triggers, and we don't do any mortal wounds. We fight with Screech first. We got to do 4 damage to him, We pop the +1 to hit, +1 to wound on Screech, and boom, we drop the Mega Gargant. We win the Timber roll, send him over this way, Mega Gargant down. That ends up being the turn. I get my 1-2 more. I get my battle tactic for surround, so we score 5 points. So we go into Gargant's bottom of 4, and he's looking at the table. He's looking at his tactics. He's not going to be able to hold more objectives than me for the rest of the game. He doesn't have a tactic this turn, so he ends up conceding the game there. Another win for the Rats. So that's it. The Gargants go down. Always the biggest thing going into Gargants is if you can drop 1 per turn starting in round 2, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. And that's this game, we just made it happen. Screech really popped off with his spell, doing a lot of damage. Then the Furnace keeping those clan rats alive to help deny his grand strat. Worked out great. And then if you're liking these battle reports, make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, if you need any models, check us out at warpfireminis.com. Thank you.